Well, at the Horticulture Extension Office and also out here at the studio grounds, we get asked a lot about what to do about these tight clay soils here in Oklahoma. And one of the best things that you can do for your soil is to add organic matter to it. Now, there are several things that organic matter can do for you. And here, this is basically what we're working with around Stillwater areas, this nice tight red clay. It sets up pretty hard. It actually looks about like the pot that it's in. Now, this doesn't have very good drainage and it's a very tight soil. Now, if you add organic matter to this, it will actually help with the drainage and it will improve the tilth. Now, I've got some soil over here from one of our gardens, one of our beds that we've actually added organic matter to for several years. And you can see the improvement in it. It crumbles a lot better and it's just a better soil to grow things in. Well, in addition to helping improve drainage and tilth of clay soil, if you add organic matter to a sandy soil, it will actually help improve both its water holding capacity and also its nutrient holding capacity. So basically, if you add organic matters to your soil, you really can't go wrong. If you have clay soil, it will help loosen it up. If you have sandy soil, it will help it hold more water. So it's a very good thing to add to your soil. Now, another thing that adding organic matter can do for your soil is to help with erosion problems. Now, if you have a tight clay soil, what usually happens is that it will form a crust on the top. Now, this is can get very hard and it can be kind of impervious to water. So when it rains, the drops fall on that, they can't penetrate that crust and they tend to run off. And the gravity of all that water running off will carry soil with it and you'll have gullies develop. But if you have a soil that's amended with organic matter, it has a nice soft surface and the raindrop actually has time to soak down into the soil. So it can help prevent erosion problems just by adding organic matter to your soil. Now, one of the forms that you can get organic matter would be to add compost to it. And here I've got some compost that is finished, and this is very nice. It has a nice crumbly texture and it has a nice earthy smell to it. We don't have a sour smell or anything like that. Now, you would want to add this right now in the fall is a very good time. If you're preparing beds for next year and you're clearing them off, you could add this to it. Or if you're actually starting a new garden bed, you could add about 6 inches of compost and till that in. You might want to do it in 3-inch increments. Add 3 inches, till that in, and then add 3 more. Then, after you've got that good start, every year you want to add from 2 to 4 inches and work that in. But that's a very good start on your soil. Now, this will take an amount of time to get that soil to where it's nice and crumbly like this. But as you work at it, you'll notice an improvement with that. Now, some other things that you can do to loosen up your soil is to plant a cover crop on that has a nice deep root system. Now, there are several different cover crops that work well for this. One of these is crimson clover. It has a nice root system that will help loosen the soil, and also it is a legume, so it's going to add some nitrogen to the soil. Also, yellow flowered sweet clover will work. Alfalfa has a very deep root system and that helps to loosen the soil. And finally, fava beans. You'll remember that we planted fava beans in our Vegetables Around the World garden to eat this spring, but fava beans also make a very good cover crop. They not only add nitrogen to the soil by being a legume, but they also have a deep root system that will help loosen the soil. And finally, when you work the beans into the soil, that will add organic matter. Now, like I said, your organic matter can come from several places, composted manure or compost. And this time of year is a good time to be stocking up on a lot of compost materials. Now, one of the items that you can use for your compost pile are leaves, right? You'll be raking a lot of leaves up here pretty quick, and those can all go into your compost pile. But there are a few suggestions before you add those to them. First, make sure that your leaves are well mulched up. That means either put them through a chipper shredder, or if you don't have a chipper shredder, just run the lawnmower over a pile a few times until they're mulched up very nicely, and then add those to your compost pile in small layers, because leaves have a tendency to mat together. So you can layer leaves and then other matter and then another layer of leaves. Now, the other thing is that in your compost pile, you want to have about a 30-to-1 ratio of carbon to nitrogen. Now leaves are brown, and so they're mostly carbon, so you will probably have to add some nitrogen to your pile if all you're putting in there is leaves. And a good way to do this is to add some manure along with your leaves at about a 1 part manure to 5 part leaves ratio. Also, if you have green grass clippings or something like that, you can add that, or you can add blood meal or dried blood to that leaf compost as you're putting it in, and that will add some nitrogen and help the pile continue to cook. Also, if you're clearing out your garden, all that garden waste can go back into the compost pile and you can put that back out on your garden. But there are a few things to remember there too. If you have large pieces like here, if we're putting our tomatoes in our compost pile, you'll want to chop those off. Now, a really easy thing is to run these through the chipper shredder, but if you don't have a chipper shredder, just cut those up as you take them out of the garden. And if you can get these in a 3 to 8 inch piece, that will help with their composting. They'll compost much faster if you can cut those up into smaller pieces. Now for these thicker stems, the 3 inch pieces will be good. If you have these thinner stems, then you could go to an 8 inch piece and that would be fine. It doesn't have to be precise, you just need to know that it needs to be mashed up. Also, if you have thick stems, like you would have with your tomatoes or with your sunflowers, you might want to try hammering those flat because that'll give more surface for microbes to work on and they will compost faster. Now these are just a few hints on how to produce some great compost so you can add organic matter to your garden, and this is a great time of year to be doing that.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.